Sarvana Majha Namaskar. Good afternoon, hello friends. I hope you are all doing very well. I'm truly delighted to be present at this very esteemed platform in this vibrant, historic city of Pune, which has long tales of valor and courage. Friends, let me ask you, how many of you are aware or who have heard the name Richard Saul Wurman? So he was the one whom I should be thanking because he, way back in 1984, he was the one who conceptualized this idea of TEDx talk, TED Talks, of encouraging the minds to think, to brainstorm together. And this is how the concept of TEDx conferences came upon. And that was the X factor which he invented, which he innovated at that particular moment of time. Friends, just imagine a world wherein everyone is a copy, a copy, a copy. So, if we have that kind of a world, that would be a nightmare, right? But thankfully, we live in a world where each one of us is unique. Each one of us has some distinct quality. Imagine a pair of socks. We all use socks in our daily routine. So, but in that pair of socks, it always happens that the one of them goes haywire, and that is the maverick sock, and that is the sock breath in. So what is important is that how do we realize our X factor? Taking you all back to my journey from the UPSC, almost 2 decades back. From hailing from the native roots of Panipat district, Haryana, I was never a girl who always had the ambition of being into civil services. It was very late, almost in my last year of graduation, that I read about civil services in one of the magazines. And that became the reason of me being into civil services. And if I discuss this further, so I have a family which is based primarily in Haryana, which has seen patriarchy deep-rooted. And if we talk about the education of women, hardly my cousins, at that particular point of time, two decades back, they hardly completed their graduation. That was the maximum that they could get, the opportunity. So when I read about this civil services at that particular point of time, I was also doing CSN in my college, along with my college. But then when I discussed this with my parents, with my family, there was an absolute complete no. Nobody bought that idea of why this civil services? You are doing pretty well, you are about to enter the corporate sector. And then why this idea of being into civil services? So it took me almost 6-7 months to convince my parents, my family. And yes, it was a kind of a rebel in me. It was a kind of my X factor which propelled me to explore, to serve my calling of serving the nation. And then as I moved further in my journey, so along with my preparation of civil services, I started my law, pursued my LLB from Delhi University. I also started my part-time job as a company secretary. So all these 3 years from 2004 to 2007 were quite strenuous, but that was the time wherein I explored my own self. And in my second attempt, I got into the civil services. So now, this was a kind of I would say, a rebel factor in me that never lets me settle down. Which even though now I am almost 16 years into the civil services, even till today, I am kind of experimenting, I am kind of evolving, I am learning, I am trying to do new things, and that is why I am amongst all of you to share what I have learned, to learn from you all. Last year, I released my first book as an author, Nation Calling. And we don't know that this chul of never settling down, this chul of me of never settling down, may take me somewhere else, and maybe in few years you may see me in some other profile, not only as a civil servant. So friends, when I start to join the dot backwards. So what is it? What are the quirks, passions, or the talent which is amongst each one of us? And when I talk to the people like you, the audience like you, it is the youth power which has to evolve, which has to identify yourself, and it is your potential which will take you leap forward. And my journey, whether it is in the remotest tribal parts of Tripura or in the distant villages of Haryana, it has actually taught me that it is your X factor, it is your change factor that will lead you to the places. And yes, India is becoming the global superpower. And when we are talking about India becoming the global superpower, the youth is the energy powerhouse. So friends, for sharing with you all, I have distilled 9 pointers when I was preparing for my talk. So I somehow reflected upon my journey, and I have distilled 9 pointers which I feel may be important to you when we are discussing about the S factor. The first and very important aspect is acknowledging and embracing the setbacks. We all have setbacks in our lives. So embracing the setbacks, acknowledging them is very, very important. We all have known about J.K. Rowling, how her attempts initially were a failure, but then Harry Potter, we all know, has been a global success. So acknowledging and embracing setbacks. The second part is analyzing and improvising. That is also very, very important. Analyzing that where we faltered and then taking the steps on improving them. Harivansh Rai Bachchan ji, in his one of his very beautiful poetry, he had mentioned कि मन का हो तो अच्छा और मन का ना हो तो और भी अच्छा. So friends, मन का हो तो अच्छा, मन का ना हो तो और भी अच्छा. So my attempt into civil services, how I selected into second attempt, I would just mention briefly that in my first attempt, I wrote prelims, I wrote mains, but I did not get an interview call. So frankly, that was the first ever academic failure which I had, I faced. So I was very much demotivated, dejected. But then I gave a commitment to my own self that now next attempt should be my best attempt. And I should not have any repentance in future that, oh, I did not give my best. And there were a lot of criticisms, especially in our family, where girls were not educated much. So लड़कियों को पढ़ा के इतना क्या करोगे? और अगर लड़कियां ज़्यादा पढ़ लेंगी तो उनको suitable match नहीं मिलेगा, उनकी शादी करने में दिक्कत आएगी. All these things we used to hear, my parents used to hear, but it was their support, it was my courage, it was my determination and dedication which sailed me through. And then in my second attempt, I rectified my mistake. I had lower marks in GS, so I worked very deliberately upon the general studies. And when my mark sheet was my mark sheet was announced, so my marks in general studies were even higher than the optional subject. And I qualified in this examination. So that is why it is important that, yes, we all will have failure or setback at some point of time, but how do we analyze and how do we improvise? That is more important. The third point is embracing failure as a tool of growth. This is also very important, that failure is your first step in learning. We have heard that term, that it is the first step in learning. So when we're talking about first step in learning, how do we actually learn out of that? That is most important. Steve Jobs, we all have heard about Steve Jobs, how he formed Apple. And there was a particular point of time when he got ousted from Apple. And then he formed 2 different companies. And then after formation of these companies, then he again went back to Apple. He re-established, reinforced his supremacy, his power. And in one of his speeches, he very effectively had said that I live each day as if this is my last day. Live each day that as if this is your last day. So friends, I also try to ask that kind of a question, that yes, if this is my last day, am I doing justice to my own self? Is it the way I want to spend my day? And if the answer continuously to say fewer days is a no, then definitely it indicates that there is a need to change the strategy. The fourth point is using the setbacks as motivation. It is also important that we use these setbacks from where we have faulted, we use them to improvise. And as I mentioned in the earlier example, if this is not working, then definitely you have to find out the reason why you are failing, why you are faltering, and then steps to improvise. The fifth point from my side is setting your goals clearly. Goal setting is very, very important, and aligning your goal with the overall requirement of the society. This is also very, very important, setting your goal clearly and aligning it with the society. So when we are talking about goal setting, so I always advise the students 3 questions to ask them repeatedly: what, why, and how. So what do they want to achieve in their life? What is the purpose? What is the burning desire behind that particular purpose? And then how will they accomplish? What is the action plan? So this is very important. And just to mention the example of Miss Florence Chadwick, way back in 1952. She became the first American woman, she became the first woman to swim across the English Channel in both the directions. Despite all the limitations, despite the weather conditions, she did so. So that is the power of goal setting. She was clear in her goal and she could excel. The 6th point is your determination, your perseverance, and your resilience. Friends, your resilience, your perseverance, and your determination will take you to places. Madam Anna Raja Malhotra, way back in 1951, she became the first woman ICS officer of independent India. And when she was selected, there was a caveat, there was a restriction in the service condition that if she marries, she will have to resign. Just imagine that this kind of a condition, if she marries, she will have to resign. So this was removed definitely later on. But women in bureaucracy have been challenging the male bastion, and they have been actually breaking the glass ceiling. And Madam Anna Raja Malhotra is a shining example of how she proved her merit, how she proved her mettle, and how she has been an inspiration for many, many women across the civil services. The 7th point, friends, very important, is avoiding procrastination and time management. Effective time management is very, very important because you will have n number of things to do. As an IAS officer, I have my daily schedule. I have my weekly schedule. So, but if I don't follow that, then I won't be able to complete the task. So therefore, it is also for you as in the academic profile when you will be entering your profession. It is important that you have your time management techniques with you, your daily planner. You may use Eisenhower metrics, you may use Pomodoro technique, but that is important that you have some kind of time management with you. The 8th important point is values and character building. Friends, while talent will take you up there, it is your character, it is your value system which will keep you up there. So therefore that is important. And if we read about Mahatma Gandhi ji, the father of the nation, the value system which he had, the leadership which he had, it gave courage to every Indian. And that is why we could stand the struggles of the freedom movement. The next important point, the 9th pointer, which is also very, very important, is positive self-belief. Friends, it is very, very important that have confidence in your own self. Way back in 1960, Wilma Rudolph became the fastest woman in the Olympics. She was a paralytic, but her physical limitations did not deter her. And she became the fastest woman in 1960 Olympics. So this is the narrative, having one step at a time. So friends, it is the time for you all to embrace your quirks, identify your qualities, have those kind of self-reflections, and identify what you need to do, And we all know youth is the change agent, and today is the time. Imagine a Rubik's Cube. I'm sure you all must have played with Rubik's Cube at some point of time. It has each colorful square which represents in life different kind of situations, different qualities, your passion, your quirks, your ambitions, your desire. And it is the harmony which we try to bring in that Rubik's Cube which will make us excel. So therefore, try to align the ability to align the all the squares in the way that creates harmony will actually make you achieve what you want and will make you excel beyond the boundaries which you feel you are. So just to conclude, I would just mention few lines by Mr. Walter D. Wintle. He said that success begins with a fellow's will. Success begins with a fellow's will. It's all in the state of mind. It's all in the state of mind. And it is not the person with the most strength, that courage. In the end, who wins? In the end, the person who thinks he can. In the end, it is the person who thinks he can. He only wins. So have that quirk keeping within you. Burn your desire, drive your passion, drive your motivation, and derive your X, the change factor. Thank you so much, friends, for inviting me over here. May you all stay blessed, stay healthy, stay happy. Thank you again. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.